Greetings, B-movie aficionados.
Hello, welcome to A Couple of Flicks. I am Tristan.
I am Nick.
And I'm Zach.
All right, and today we are talking about our three choices that we sort of preemptively chose in the last episode for 90s comedies. It was kind of the theme that we're going with. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. But before we do that, have either of you watched anything new or interesting that you are interested in talking about before we do that?
I didn't watch much this week. Last thing I watched, I guess, was the new Marvel show on Disney Plus, WandaVision.
Oh, nice.
It's pretty decent.
Cool.
I've heard good things. I want to check it out.
Yeah, it's not typical Marvel stuff. It's pretty much a straight up 50s sitcom for the first two episodes, but with little subtle hints as to what's going to happen later. But yeah, it's pretty good.
It's interesting.
Yeah, it sounds cool.
Pretty much all I watched, other than a couple Wes Anderson movies. But
Nice. Which ones did you rewatch? I'm assuming.
Fantastic Mr. Fox and Bottle Rocket.
Oh, I love those.
Yeah, some of the greats.
Yeah.
It's excellent. Yeah, I really need to get around to rewatching Life Aquatic. So, because that's the only one I've seen like once, and the rest of them I've rewatched, but not that one for some reason. Yeah. So.
My favorite movie of all time.
Yeah, exactly. So it is a pretty awesome movie, actually. So
I can go next. I guess. I mean, I watched a lot. I'm not fully finished The Mandalorian. I'm like an episode or two before finishing it.
Mm-hmm.
I like it.
So good.
Nice.
Yeah. It's actually decent Star Wars in the past 2 decades for once.
Yeah. But now that it's been successful, they're oversaturating it again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, of course. They need to figure out what they're doing with that franchise.
Yeah.
But for movies, I watched The Blob.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Which one? The original one from the 50s or the 80s remake?
One. The 80s remake one, yeah.
Oh, man. Oh, that movie is so scary.
I liked it a lot, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was written by Frank Darabont. I didn't know. So
yeah,
some Frank Darabont recurring cast members.
Yeah. Oh gosh. Yeah, my dad had the VHS tape, and I just remember the cover really creeped me out because it was the shot from in the movie where. Well, wait, Zach, have you seen it yet?
I have. I don't really remember much, but it was a long time ago.
Well, the scene where the character of Paul dies, like where he gets vaporized, and you can see like his head like getting like devoured, basically, like you see it like dissolve in the blobby goopy stuff. It's that's basically the cover of the VHS tape. And
that's cool.
Yeah, and it creeped me out like when I saw it, like when I saw that cover as a kid.
Right.
And that cover, and then the cover for the Invasion of the Body Snatchers remake was really creepy too. Like the Body Snatchers, it's like this weird like shell thing on this lady, and it's just I don't know.
Yeah, I liked how they set up for the main character to be like, oh, this guy's gonna be the main actor, and then he like dies 30 minutes in.
Yeah, it's awesome.
I think that was some Frank Darabont in there. There's definitely a lot of. I could now because I learned that before I watched it, so I was like, looking for some Darabont touches, and there's definitely some stuff in there. This is like one of his first writing things, I think.
Yeah, that's cool. I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that I think the guy who played Paul is Ione Skye's brother. So I think that might have been Donovan's, the musician Donovan's son, I want to say. I think that's the guy who played him. I think that I can't remember exactly, but I think that's the case. So, which I think is kind of a fun fact, So, wasn't Kevin Dillon and like Shawnee Smith? I think both of them were in that movie too.
Kevin Dillon was, yes.
Yeah. Okay, I
Or
think Shawnee.
some Dillon, yeah.
Yeah, I think Shawnee Smith. Which is it's interesting to kind of see her in a movie like that, like knowing that she went on to be in the Saw movies and all these other things, But yeah, no, that's a good movie though. I really like that Blob remake. I don't like it as much as the Thing remake, but I still really like that one.
Yeah, it was good.
Yeah, underrated. So, let's see. I the only thing I watched was I rewatched that might be interesting to talk about was the Michael Mann movie Collateral with Jamie Foxx and Tom Cruise. I rewatched that last night. So
I haven't seen that one in a while.
yeah,
I don't know if I've seen it. I think I have.
yeah, it's the one where Tom Cruise is like he's like this assassin who basically like has Jamie Foxx like drive him to these locations to perform these various hits, and he kind of forces him to go along with it, and it's kind of a psychological sort of film. I have mixed feelings about it because like I enjoyed the first 2/3 a lot. It's really beautifully directed and acted and written, but I don't really like the direction it goes in the final act. It kind of turns into just another like thriller. It's like they had to figure out a way to end the movie, and so they just kind of quickly wrap it up with like a chase scene. I don't know. It just was the one thing about that movie I never liked, was the kind of the last part of it. Just felt like it, I don't know, sort of veered off a little bit, but that's just me.
Yeah, I couldn't say. I can't remember if I don't even know if I've seen it. So
Yeah. Oh,
but I do know it. So
yeah. All right. Well, let's see. Well, the order that okay, so yeah, we're gonna get started now, and I think the first film we're gonna talk about was My Choice, which was the 1994, although it was filmed in 1990, I believe, comedy starring Martin Short, Clifford.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wasn't sure the order we're doing it in, or who chose which one.
We're gonna start with mine and then do yours next, and then we're gonna finish with Zach's.
That sounds like a good order.
Yeah. So, but I figure we may as well get My Choice out of the way first, just because, like, yeah. So, yeah, when I say comedy ? I say it for a reason, because, like, all right. The reason I chose this movie is because I hadn't seen it for a while. I hadn't seen it for like a long time, but it was a movie that I saw when I was like pretty young. I remember that my family and I watched it like on Christmas. I just have a weird memory of watching this movie with my family on Christmas.
Like just one specific Christmas, or like annually on Christmas?
Well, on one specific Christmas. I think it was like my 1996, 1997, one of those two Christmases, I believe. And I remember being puzzled by it then, and I've watched it a few times since then. And to be honest, I'm still really puzzled by it, because I find this movie really pretty tragic, actually, personally. And I'm just kind of curious as to like whether you guys feel the same. But before we get into that, like, do you want me to explain the plot, or do you want to say anything real quick?
I'll go ahead.
I'll just say that I did. This was a tough one for me for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Excellent. Okay, good. Well, I'm definitely looking forward to hearing why. So, okay, so basically, this movie is about this kid. No, actually, no, I'm wrong. This movie is about a priest in the year 2050. You see, this is the part of the movie I always forget about. So this movie, it's about this priest who works at, I believe, a boarding school of some sort in 2050. And the priest is played by Martin Short in old man makeup, which
They didn't bother to put young makeup on him, but they bothered to put old man makeup on him.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, this movie, like, and I think this is something that other people have said too. I recall somebody else saying this, but this movie really didn't need the intro, outro, 2050 stuff.
No. It was Princess Bride.
Yeah,
except with the other savage kid.
Exactly, not Fred, but
I was like, it's Boy Meets World.
Yeah, your boy.
Yeah. Mr. Ben Savage. Yep.
Yeah, Ben Savage. Yeah, Martin Short. He befriends Ben Savage, who is a troubled kid at the school. Who, I guess it's kind of briefly mentioned, he made a bomb threat. So red flag number one, bomb threat. But of course, then Clifford, which is the name of the priest, he decides to, tell the story of what he was like when he was 10 years old. And so then the movie flashes back to when the priest was 10. And yeah, so the kid who is 10 years old is played by Martin Short, who, when the movie came out, he was 40, but when the movie was being filmed, he was like 36 or 37. And they like you mentioned, they don't bother to put any kind of makeup on. They don't bother to do anything to like make him look young, other than put on a wig and clothes that are like slightly too small for him, and that's it. And the effect is actually a lot more disturbing than one would think. So Martin Short, at first it's just, the idea seems really peculiar because it's like Martin Short playing a 10-year-old. Like what drugs were they on to come up with that idea, right? But then you actually watch the movie, and then it makes sense why they chose Martin Short, because if they had casted an actual kid in this role, I think it would have been unwatchable.
It was fairly unwatchable in this state.
It was, and so I'm wondering how that, like, I can't picture it. I don't think I could, like my brain like won't even accept the idea of that, because Martin Short plays like probably the most like sadistic, psychotic 10-year-old in the world.
There were times where I was actually legitimately frightened by him.
Yeah. He was like sociopathic. He was psychopathic. He was a liar. He turned people against each other. He was a manipulator. He like basically like Junior Joker, like wicked evil.
Mm-hmm.
All because, and like within the first 5 minutes of meeting him, he almost crashes a plane.
Yep. Yeah. Just so he can go to like the whole, not to like go on your territory, but the whole plot was him wanting to go to Dinosaur Land or something in LA. Yeah. So he tried to crash a plane so he could go there.
Yeah. All because he wants to go to an amusement park. And then the geniuses behind this movie decided to cast Charles Grodin as his uncle. First, do you want to talk about the whole situation with his parents? Because that could have made a movie in and of itself. Like,
They didn't. I mean, the dad. I mean, I don't know too. They didn't have too much. It was just that the dad that I. You probably might have more to say on it, but the dad hated him too.
Yeah. His parents wanted to kill him. Like,
Yeah.
they were like ready to strangle him. He kept on, like, he was trying to provoke his dad into having a stroke. Like, that's how evil this kid is.
Yeah.
He's like, oh yeah.
I was gonna say, it seemed like the mother was trying to drink away her problems with him.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, his domestic situation is awful. Like, that's really creepy, you know? Not the kind of stuff that would really typically make a usual family comedy, you know? So, interesting approach of humor, particularly, you know, given that this film, you know, it was pre, you know, 2001 age. So, you know, this was in a time when people could make jokes about crashing planes.
Was this
But
billed as a family comedy?
yes. Yes, it was. And I remember I had the VHS tape. And I remembered the cover so vividly. And actually, like, whenever the poster design gets done for this episode, I hope that they go with the cover art for it. But basically, it's a picture of Martin Short standing outside of a doghouse with like a leash on. So it's Martin Short wearing a leash. That's the cover, and it says above it, it's like this big long like sentence. It says, what's the difference between Clifford and a pit bull? One will tear your heart out, scare your friends, and wreck your house, and the other is a dog. And I didn't understand that joke when I was a kid. Like, I was like, okay, I don't get it. Like, and it took me forever to get the joke. It's like, oh, okay, now, duh. But when I was a kid, like, when I watched this movie, it felt like a comedy that I just didn't understand the humor of. Like, the humor just felt like it came from a different country or something, you know. But watching it now, like, the humor still evades me, you know. But anyway, so he goes to his uncle's house, and the geniuses behind this movie had the brilliant idea of choosing actor Charles Grodin to play Clifford's uncle. And actually, I kind of think he does the best job in this movie, because somehow he manages.
Sarcasm, good choice, or because I know the name and face.
Well,
but I really
okay. The reason I say the reason I think it's good casting is because Charles Grodin was kind of like the early 90s equivalent of like the deadpan funny man. Like, he would show up in comedies and he would be totally deadpan and totally like straightforward and serious, and that's where the humor would come from. So he like he's really good at being serious in a funny way, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Anyway, so he plays this role totally straight faced, and somehow he manages to actually like do a pretty good job at playing it sincerely. Like, he genuinely treats Martin Short like he's 10 years old, you know. And so kudos to him for the acting. And let's see, what I know that there was some sort of situation. Oh yeah. So the Uncle Martin character is kind of interested in this lady played by Mary Steenburgen, who also does a good job in this movie. It's weird that they have so like actual good actors in a movie with this like kind of weird humor. But anyway, it has like misgivings about marrying the Charles Grodin Uncle Martin character, because she wants to have kids, and she kind of gets the impression that he doesn't like kids. But his luck is about to change, because his nephew, after accidentally crashing a plane, understandably so, his brother wants to dump his kid off as quickly as possible, just to get him away from him. So he leaves him at his Uncle Martin's house for, I don't know, a few days or something. It's never really made clear how long he's staying there. So this is like Uncle Martin's chance to like prove to his fiance, Sarah, I think her name is, that he likes kids. but unfortunately he has the poor luck of having the most evil kid in the entire universe be his nephew.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, he stole how much stuff at the airport?
A shit ton. He stole a dog. He just took shit
Yes.
out of the luggage and said, "Yeah, my dad doesn't want to be robbed when we leave, so we take everything with us."
Yeah. And then he stole somebody's dog, and the dog, of course, bolts because he's scared, or he sees a cat or something.
Yeah.
And like, I don't think the dog ever gets returned to its owners. Like, I think it's a lost dog.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But it's a family comedy.
I can't believe that it's a family comedy.
Yeah, I know, this is such a twisted movie. Anyway, so he's left at his Uncle Martin's house, and his Uncle Martin, I guess he was involved in the construction of something at the Dinosaur Land theme park. And so Clifford's like, "Oh, sweet! This is my chance to go to Dinosaur World. This is my chance to, get a free pass and all that stuff."
Yeah.
And
he has throughout the whole movie a little dinosaur with him he's talking to as well.
oh yeah, that's another thing. He's got another kind of creepy little quirk. He talks to a toy dinosaur named Stefan, I think.
I forgot to write it down, but
Oh,
stupid.
yeah. Stefan. Yeah, I think his name was Stefan. Anyway, yeah. So he's got a talking toy dinosaur. His uncle is his plan is to take him to Dinosaur World. However, he also happens to be an architect who's working at a deadline, and his boss, of course, is like, "Oh, you gotta get chopping away at the subway transit situation that he's working on," or whatever. That, I don't know. There's some kind of discrepancy that he ends up having to work more extensively on it than he expected at the last second. But having said that, though, like, okay, so because of that, he ends up having to postpone the trip to Dinosaur World, which, to me, I think that, like, that was kind of a poor decision on his part, because how often is there going to be the chance for you to spend time with your nephew at a theme park?
That's fair. Yeah.
It just seems like the right thing to do would be to just take him there just for a couple hours, and then maybe on the way back, just try to explain to him, like, "Look, you can crash in the room all you want, you can stay up as late as you want, you can do whatever, you can party, all that stuff, but I have to get this work done." Like, that would have been the smart thing for the uncle to do, but instead he says,
hindsight, yeah, I'm sure.
yeah,
I'm sure, like, in general, like, you'd assume that a kid would be upset, and, like, even he has to get it was made clear, or they said that there was a shit ton of work that had to be done, basically the whole restructuring, so he would have to basically redo the whole project in a few days, is why he had to. It wasn't so. But little did he know he was upsetting a demon child.
Yeah, because as soon as he says, "We can't go, not today," he Clifford launches and has a psychotic meltdown, basically. He almost causes a car accident, which, I mean, the plane crash, or the near plane crash already put him on my shit list. But then the fact that he almost gets into a car accident is like, oh man, I hate this kid. And it just doesn't feel right calling him a kid.
Mm-mm.
It just never feels right.
No,
It
was so weird. It was so weird.
It's the weirdest. Anyway, so they have to. So yeah, the kid, he has a meltdown, and he stops at the convenience store to get chocolate or whatever it is, and
because he wants so much chocolate.
Yeah,
he's some weird. I don't fucking know what he said, but yeah. Some weird terminology for a shit ton of chocolate. He was
yeah, a whole gang of chocolate. I need it badly, or whatever. Yeah. It's like, Jesus. And then and so then there happens to be a family like right next to, that's parked next to them, and one of the kids that's getting out is dressed in the dinosaur costume because they're all going to Dinosaur Land or Dinosaur World. And Clifford is like, "Oh shit, I got to get in on that." So I guess he convinces the kid to switch costumes and pays him money, and then takes his place, and then of course, Charles Grodin finds out, confronts him, pulls the wig off. The mom, accuses him of being a pervert and starts hitting him, and then eventually that situation is resolved. But it's like, I mean, that's just like, again, where's the humor? Like, again, that's kind of a terrifying scenario. Like,
there wasn't much in this. There wasn't much humor in this whole movie.
Yeah, it was kind of a horror movie. Like,
yeah, that's what I was like. Why I was generally frightened by that kid. There was some like just the way he looked at like when he was saying threatening things to his uncle. I was like, oh, this is actually scarier than it is funny.
Yeah, no, he's like 2 degrees away from being Mikey, except he doesn't kill anybody,
But he fucking threatens to, pretty much.
Yeah.
Well,
he easily could. Or no, he's the type of kid that is so evil he would drive somebody to kill themselves. I think that's what he would do. Like, because man, like, yeah. Well, anyway, but we're getting ahead of ourselves. So of course, Charles Grodin, of course, he makes the stupid decision to ground him, which is like, I don't know why. It's like, at that point, he's already established that he's psychotic. The last thing you want to do is play with fire, but he decides to do that anyway. And then he unexpectedly has to go to a family reunion, or his fiance's family reunion, or whatever it is. And that ends up, and he ends up basically getting revenge on his uncle at that get together and humiliating him in front of everybody and getting him arrested. He puts Tabasco sauce in his punch. He pours his punch out and then replaces it with tobacco sauce, or his Bloody Mary, or whatever it is. He replaces his drink with hot sauce.
Yeah, I was like, even tried to rewind to just check for a few like 30 seconds. I couldn't figure out what he did to the drink to make him.
He poured it into the plant and replaced it with hot sauce, I think, or Tabasco sauce or something. He switches his chapstick for lipstick at one point, and then he gets him arrested, and because he recorded him being grounded, and then edited the audio with his answering machine message, sent it to the police, and made it sound like he was making a bomb threat. So he gets his uncle arrested on a bomb threat, and then when he gets back, his uncle is like, oh, like, I gotta like you gotta like write a confession. We gotta like get this shit worked out because there's no time left. He's got to finish this city hall project. And actually, that was probably the funniest scene in the movie for me, because Charles Grodin was playing it so straight, and Martin Short was just like having a ball, like acting as obnoxious and twisted as possible. And at one point, he says, "Look at me like a human being," and it cuts to a shot of Martin Short. And it's just the weirdest, funniest, like, that made me laugh really hard.
I will say that was probably the only funny part of the movie, was those faces he was making. And he was like, look at me like a human. Are you, what is this? What is that? That's not real. Really.
He's like, if you even look at me weird, look, you see, you're doing it already. Wait, look, you can't look normal for 5 seconds, just 5 seconds or whatever. Like, it's like, oh my God, this is so messed up, And it's Martin Short, and somehow it works. Like, it's weird enough that it's interesting enough, And so then he tricks him into thinking he ran away.
Yeah, that's what I wrote down. Like, I hated, like, I was like, oh, I hate this movie. And then like he got arrested, and then I was like, oh, interesting. It's getting interesting because now it's turning into like some psychological thriller instead of any comedy. But I still hate it.
Yeah. Yeah, pretty much. He tricks him onto getting on a bus to San Francisco, which, oh, yes, there's a subplot. Okay, so, all right, so Clifford, the 10-year-old kid played by Martin Short, the 37-year-old at the time of filming Martin Short, has a crush on Uncle Martin's fiance, Sarah Martin, and that part is pretty scary too. Like, but so there's a subplot involving her going with her boss for some, like, to open a new preschool, and it leads to pretty disturbing moment where she gets assaulted in the back of a limo.
Mhm.
Again, a comedy. Like, I'm just not sure where the jokes are. Like, a family comedy where a woman gets assaulted in a limo.
I can't see this being for kids at all. Yeah.
Yeah, but I watched it when I was a kid, and my family laughed at it. I remember, like, we saw it like, we watched it on Christmas. Like, my family loves this movie. Let's see. So he tricks him getting on a bus to San Francisco so that he can throw a party. And of course, the house gets trashed. Uncle Martin shows up. He finally finds the tape that he needs to do the demo. And, you know, meanwhile, like, Sarah shows up, you know, accuses Martin of abuse, takes Clifford away, and then he goes to do the demonstration at his workplace of his new city hall plans, and the whole thing explodes. So yeah, grade A psychopath.
Yeah, he like the little miniature model of the project. He blew it up.
Yep. Totally destroyed his uncle's lifelong dreams, you know, just psychological torment to the extreme, you know.
Yeah. And is that where he had that, like, because at one point the Uncle Martin had just had a breakdown and was like, I don't care. Fuck you.
Yeah.
I don't care.
It was right after that. That's when he says, whatever shall we do, Clifford? Whatever shall we do? You know.
That's when I thought it got interesting. Is like,
yeah,
oh, he's gonna go for him. He's gonna try and kill this kid.
Yeah, this is when the movie gets interesting. So this family comedy takes a drastic twist when Uncle Martin decides to kidnap his nephew and bring him to this amusement park overnight, and decides to psychologically torment him for a little while. You know, he puts him on a ride, on a particularly animated ride, I must say. I don't know if you guys have ever been on a ride like that, but it was, you know, pretty intense. You know, skeletons and stuff. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I'm easily scared.
There was a loop-de-loop.
Yeah. Yeah. There was some dinosaurs, you know, some talking dinosaurs, a laser gun. It's pretty badass, actually. You know, but then he starts going on it, and then he puts it into hyperdrive. The whole thing malfunctions. Clifford winds up in I like to call it a the good son situation, where a character is hanging off the edge of a cliff and another character has to save them, which actually I found this movie more disturbing than The Good Son, to be honest. But,
yeah, definitely.
Yeah. But Uncle Martin, you know, of course, he's a good person, and instead of letting the budding psychopath drop to his doom,
I don't know, man.
He rescues him because this is a family comedy after all, let's face it. He rescues him, and then he says, there's nothing you can do to apologize, basically. Sorry doesn't cut it, blah, blah, blah. He walks away.
Yeah, I like that little monologue that he had.
Yeah.
Because he should have, I mean, should have just let him fucking die. Like, he had a point, like, one of his while he was, save me, why would you save me? I'm thinking here, I should, I don't know. I mean, kind of I should, because you're a kid, but also the potential of you, if you get your hands on this plutonium, I accidentally blew up the world.
Oh yeah. I just made the biggest nuclear bomb in the whole wide world. Yeah, because the Clifford character tends to talk in these kinds of ways where he exaggerates things. Like, you're the greatest person.
Oh, yeah, it's like a very, like, I think Martin Short does that for character work type stuff. So it was like a Martin Short character he was playing as, like,
yeah, this creepy 10-year-old. You're the greatest uncle in the whole wide world. You're the most beautiful lady in the whole wide world. At one point, he makes fun of a character's wig.
Yeah, you have the greatest wig ever.
Yeah, that's the bestest looking wig I've ever seen, or whatever. Which, by the way, the choice that I have later on for the movie that we're going to be talking about in the future, it has to do with wigs. I'm not going to spoil anything, but I'm gonna just kind of throw a little nugget of yeah. Anyway, yeah. But anyway, so he rescuing Clifford, and then Clifford feels bad about it, which is like, oh wow, okay.
I didn't even get that feeling until like the flashback to the priest thing, because like Uncle Martin like just was like, I don't care what you do, don't follow me, no one likes you, and then just walks away. And he was like, does no one like me? I don't know.
It's the moment where Clifford, it's like this, it's interesting how this movie takes such a drastic final turn at the last act, where he's standing in the fog, and it's like this dramatic moment with this backlighting, and Clifford is standing there, and he's got kind of a serious look on his face, and the narration is saying, it was then at that moment I realized that everything I had done was wrong, or something like that. I don't remember what the narration said, but I think it was that moment where he had the epiphany, so to speak. So then he writes him 287 letters of apology, and all is well.
I mean, they were all returned unopened, though.
That's true, but he still invites him to be the ring bearer at his wedding.
I think that was only the wife that did that.
Oh, well.
Because at the wedding, he was still giving him shit. Like
That's true.
Uncle, he wasn't looking at him. He was like,
yeah.
He didn't. It was obvious he didn't want him to be there. I think it was just the wife was like, I like him.
Yeah. Oh, well,
she was tricked by him. She was tricked by him and stuff the whole time. So
that's true. And it also was like sort of a moment where like in the scene, Charles Grodin looks kind of hesitant, like, I don't want to kiss this psycho, but the narration is saying, Uncle Martin, forgive me, or he forgave me. And at that moment, I knew I had done the right thing, or whatever. And so the lesson of the movie is, if you are a psychotic, sick human being who psychologically tortures people, and you decide one day you feel bad about it, all you have to do is send 287 letters of apology, and all will be forgiven.
I honestly don't think he did forgive him.
Yeah, but if you're a kid and you're watching this movie, that might be the impression you get.
Yeah.
But I guess the lesson of the movie is never forget the importance of an apology, perhaps. I don't know. Was there a lesson? Had a pretty bad moral lesson for a family comedy. I don't know. But I was curious as to what you guys thought of it.
Yeah. I mean, there was no redemption arc. I mean, he just was like, oh, I'm like at that last, like that was my favorite part. He was just, telling him off. And I didn't, you said like that fog scene where he was just with the narration. It was just like, oh, and then 50 years later, he seems to be a good priest guy.
Yeah.
We got nothing out of the actual movie.
Well, actually, I think the scariest part of this movie is the very last 10 seconds of the movie, where it reveals that the priest still has the toy dinosaur, and he pulls him out. He pulls him out of his butt and says, "Mission accomplished, my friend." Yep. That's the scariest thing ever. It's like, he's still an evil man. Mm-hmm. Like, that's just creepy.
Yeah, and I'll just like I said, my thoughts on it were I hated it because I don't like kids. Like, I'm not a kid person, and these are like those are the type of kids amped up to 23 that he was playing. So like, it was unrealistic, of course, but like, it just angered me. Like, I actually had visceral anger when I was watching this movie, just because of. Like, for the first portion of it, for sure, just because it wasn't getting to the thriller horror aspect yet. It was just an annoying little Martin Short fucker being a little dick. I was like, God damn it, this is annoying as hell. I hate this. And then eventually it got to like a thriller horror movie. So I was like, okay, now I can kind of not hate it as much.
Yeah, pretty much. But you have to give it more than a 1, though, because technically there were breasts in it.
Were there?
Yeah, on the TV, the tribal women where they were dancing around.
Okay, yeah. All right, that's all it's getting for me is a 1, then. Yeah.
What? Okay. What do you think of it, Zach?
It was pretty interesting, to say the least. Like Nick was saying, I started it off like being really super annoyed with this Martin Short's character.
Yeah.
But then it did get better. I kind of wished it was like a straight up horror movie. Like it would have been
me too.
a little more interesting.
Like when you think about it, it almost was. Like if it hadn't been played by Martin Short and it had been played by an actual kid, like Charles Grodin, I mean, there were some funny things he says, but he does mostly play it straight, mostly.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
like just a couple little character tweaks here and there, and it totally could have been like a straight up horror movie. I think it's interesting that it's a comedy. As a movie, I'd give it like probably like a 2, but as an experience personally, it's just, there's something about it that I find very interesting. Like the comedy is so misguided that I find it kind of works almost on an experimental film level. And so I give it a 4 out of 5.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah. It's another cool as ice rating.
No.
Yeah.
I gave it a 2.5. I think the last part made up for everything else.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah. Yeah. I thought the amusement park ride was interesting. Like it was, you know, it kind of felt weird in a comedy, but at the same time, it's like maybe that's kind of what they were going for. So. Yeah. But it was filmed in the early 1990, but it was shelved until 1994. So that's another thing. Yeah, I'm noticing a lot of these movies that we're watching were movies that were shelved. Like I think Surf Ninjas was shelved as well, and Three Ninjas Knuckle Up, which is the next one we're going to be talking about. But I'll let you do the announcements when we do get to that one. I think that one was shelved too, and I can think of some others that we've done. I think like Ticks might have been shelved. I don't know. Anyway, doesn't matter. But that was Clifford. The next movie that we're going to be talking about was your choice, which was
Three Ninjas Knuckle Up, right? That's the name of it?
Yeah. Yes.
Because there's a bunch I didn't realize. I just chose one by random as usual.
Yeah. Yeah.
So this is, I'm assuming somewhere in the middle of the series. Because they didn't really do any. They were already ninjas at this point. They were...
Well, that's sort of the interesting thing about this movie. Actually, is that it kind of follows sort of. It kind of feels like a side story in the Three Ninjas films, like because there's three ninjas and then there's Three Ninjas Kick Back, which is a very direct sequel to the first Three Ninjas. But then this one is completely unrelated and seems to exist either like outside of those films, or I'm not sure even.
According to the Wikipedia, it's a prequel to Three Ninjas Kick Back, but that doesn't make much sense.
Okay.
Because that's a sequel, so.
Yeah, that's really strange.
So it's just a trilogy out of order. That was filmed and released out of order.
Well, okay, I was reading. I was reading about it, and I think what happened was, okay, so they made the first Three Ninjas, and the first Three Ninjas was a hit, you know, and
wait, when did this one come out? Then is it like the 4th or 5th?
Well, this one. Well, there's 4 Three Ninjas movies in total. The first one came out in 1992, I believe, or 1991. Sometime in the early 90s. This one was filmed sometime in between Three Ninjas and Three Ninjas Kick Back, but it was shelved until after the release of Three Ninjas Kick Back. So it was filmed before the sequel, but released after. Which I know doesn't make. I mean, yeah. So really, the Three Ninjas Knuckle Up almost kind of exists in its own sort of.
Side plot story.
Yeah, it's a side quest. So, but anyway, so, but before we talk about these movies, have either of you? Like what is the experience that you guys have with the Three Ninjas movies?
This is my first one.
Okay. I had
seen them all as a kid.
Yeah.
I hadn't seen them in a while, but I have seen them all.
Like
Yeah.
I will say, with at least watching this one, I'd say they're good kid movies. They seem. I would, if I'm sure if I was a kid, I probably would have liked them. I think.
Yeah. Yeah. I loved the first Three Ninjas when I was a kid, and I also loved the Three Ninjas Kick Back. Those were the only two I'd seen. So I don't think I've seen High Noon at Mega Mountain, which is the one that has Hulk Hogan in it.
Was this your first time seeing Knuckle Down or Up or whatever?
Yeah, this is my first time watching Knuckle Up. So I came into
Nice.
this one totally fresh. So
Nice, yeah.
yeah. So I don't know. Do we want to talk about the plot, or is there much?
Yeah, I can get into it. It's a basic plot.
Yeah.
Well, if you're not familiar with the series, it follows these kids that are the three ninjas trained by their grandpa, Miyagi type character, basically.
Yeah, I think it was like the angry tavern owner
Yeah.
in Tremors.
Oh, is that? I mean, he definitely looks familiar as one of those guys that you see as a generic old, Asian man.
Yeah.
So the brothers are Rocky, who is like the older, mature brother that, the stereotypical, nothing out of the box with this guy, is,
Yeah, the do-gooder.
If we're going with ninja terms, the Leonardo of the group.
Yeah. Perfect. Yes.
You have the middle child. I'm assuming they're I think they're ranging in age, at least. The middle child. His name was Colt.
Yes.
I would go with Raphael for him. Though he wasn't like necessarily mean spirited, but he was more of like a free will or smart ass kind of guy.
Yeah, more rambunctious, a little bit more aggressive. So.
Yep. And then you have the little kid. His name was Tum Tum.
Mm-hmm.
This is, of course, the Michelangelo of the.
Yeah.
He's always snacking. He's more of the comedic relief. Of the three.
Yeah, the
silly little kid.
The funny kid with the big appetite. So
he's got the more of the jokes, but they're not really that funny. Unless you're a kid, maybe, I guess you can find humor in this movie.
I mean, I did like the way he reacted to the bad driving, but that's only because that tends to be how I reacted to bad driving. I'm like,
that was actually good. They weren't on, and for what it's worth, none of them were really bad kid actors.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, they had good charisma,
Yeah, and you could tell they at least knew, because of course there were a shit ton of body doubles and everything, but there were definitely shots of them doing work, and they could at least do those few shots competently.
Yeah.
So
they definitely moved around a lot. You could tell they were in good shape.
Yeah,
and stuff.
Even if it wasn't like all the stuff was maybe slow mode down, sped up type stuff, they were at least competent.
Yeah, they sold the illusion.
Yes. Yeah. And then so the plot is it's a generic bad guys coming in to take over, native indigenous people land. They're using it as a land dump. And then it's them stopping them. The whole movie's
pretty much it.
Yeah, that's how generic it is. It's just them stopping them with a lot of fight scenes and a lot of fight scenes in between.
Pretty much nothing but fight scenes and chase scenes,
and long ones too. Overly long ones. I didn't part of the reason why I was late to the record today was because I didn't realize how long this movie was going to be and how long it didn't really need to be.
Yeah.
You could have kept all the fight scenes they had in there, but cut them in half, and you would have saved 30 minutes of them.
Yeah.
Especially that first one in the pizza parlor.
Yeah.
It's
oh my god, it went on
20 minutes long or something like that.
Yeah. I also when they first started, I was like, oh, this is like a Jackie Chan fight scene, because at first they were poorly, not like Jackie Chan scale style, handing the pizza to the bad guys while they punch another guy, like taking it back from him, throwing pizzas around and shit to use as weapons and whatnot. And it was just the first, like the younger two at first. Well, because the older brother was playing an arcade game because it was like an arcade pizza spot.
Yeah.
And
Old school 90s.
eventually one of the other brothers kicked a bad guy into the older brother playing the video game, and then he steps in and
Takes him out.
takes the main, I guess, bad guy out because one of the bad guys whipped out a knife on a kid. And by the way, this whole thing was instigated because the main little girl character of the movie, that is the love interest of the older brother, she was like, she came in and I don't know, was threatening or saying, I forget if her dad was kidnapped. Not too much of a spoiler, but that's part of the plot. I don't know if it was at that
in the first 15 minutes.
Yeah, I don't know if it was at that point she was like, "Where's my dad?" or saying, "You guys suck." But eventually, the bad guys like were beating on her, like they fucking chucked her on the ground and shit. I was like, "Oh, what the fuck?"
Yeah. It's like, oh wow, they're beating up this little kid. Like,
yeah,
it makes sense. Yeah,
I would expect maybe them just to like slightly brush her to the side or something, but no, like they full on like just they dump a soda on her, push her to the ground and shit. And I was like, what the fuck?
It's a little cruel. I was like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, they wanted to paint these as bad men.
Yeah.
So that's what started the fight. Yeah.
Yeah. I would actually have to say that was probably my biggest problem with this movie was there were way too many fight scenes. And and like you said, they were really long, and they had to show each kid do different things, but it was almost like they were trying to show enough of them, but they just couldn't show enough. They had to just keep showing more and more and more, like they were trying to like balance it all out, but it just kind of ended up making a lot of the fight scenes go on way too long. And that was probably my biggest problem with this movie, because the first Three Ninjas movie is actually structured almost like an old school like martial arts movie, or like an old western or something like that, where it starts off with one big fight scene, and then probably about like 40, like maybe 30 to 45 minutes of exposition, plot development, etc. And then the final act is just like one fight scene that escalates into a bigger and bigger fight scene, and then it ends in a climactic one-on-one. And it's like an old school like structure, but it's a kids movie, so that's kind of what made it cool. This movie was pretty much just like almost nothing but fight scenes and chase scenes, and then there was a dance scene in the middle.
So, well, before we get to that, I want to I will comment on, I thought this was going to be also a Western style, just only because of the native indigenous people subplot. I thought, oh, they're doing ninjas in West, like, Shanghai noon.
Yeah, Shanghai noon.
Yeah. So I thought they might go for something like that, but no, they didn't. They just kind of relied on that old thing.
Which it's fine because it's a good lesson. It's a good message, but it's just kind of a bummer that they didn't try to go deeper.
I mean, well, so there was a message in the movie, which I'll start off by saying I didn't get it. So, and when I finish about talking about the movie, I'll just tease right now. Their grandpa uses one of those metaphors of listen to the flowers and what does it speak to you? What does it say? And it was said once, and then they didn't really bring it up at all throughout the whole movie.
Yeah.
And it ends up being the lesson, which doesn't tie. I'll get to that later. So
okay.
But anyway, after the pizza fight scene, they have a cleaning montage. They were chucking the knives and forks into the right spots. Throwing plates all ninja style-y. And one funny thing I thought was that I just wanted to mention, cut this whole montage for, it was a total goof. The girl came back and just to check on him, thank him for the saving her at the pizza thing, and she's like, they were taking out the trash and they were like, oh, let me help, it's heavy, and all three of them like try to put the trash in, but like it was like an error of just how it worked. Like the trash bag actually fell out and onto the ground with the bag instead of into the trash can, and just one of the kids just picked it up and chucked it in there. It's like, shouldn't the director have yelled cut? We could, like, why? Like the kid just literally, you could literally tell it was like like a bag full of balloons or something. Like they were pretending it was a heavy bag. You need 3 kids to put into the dumpster, but they mess up, and the one kid was like, "Oh shit, check it right back in there."
That was funny. Yeah.
So she bases. So I think that's when she tells her that her grandpa is kidnapped and she needs help.
Right. And wasn't the bad guy that one dude, like the main, or I don't know, maybe I'm thinking of something else. Well, okay, I guess it doesn't matter. Anyway, go on.
So yeah, they where to go? I guess yeah, they basically know. They figure out that the grandpa or the dad was stolen. Her dad, the little girl's dad, was kidnapped because it comes. I'll just whatever. It's all fucking stupid anyway. It was he has some dirt. He has some dirt on these bad guys.
Yeah, it's on a disc.
Yeah, that's the MacGuffin of them. The MacGuffin of this movie is a floppy disk.
Floppy disk. I love it.
So they're trying to, they kidnap him to get it. The 3 ninjas help the little girl rescue him.
They rescue the dad really fast. Actually, like conflict gets resolved pretty quickly, but then they keep kidnapping her eventually. But I'm getting ahead of myself. I'm sorry.
I did notice like the sheriff of the movie was Bob Pinciotti from that 70s show. I was like, oh,
it was funny. It's like, oh sweet, 3 Ninjas Knuckle Up. Oh, that's on his resume.
Yeah. And again, I went with Ninja Turtle stuff. There was the pizza, and then they also escape many times into the manhole covers, into the sewers throughout the film. They're escaping into the sewers.
I don't know how their kids were lifting that, but
those are heavy fucking things.
Oh yeah.
The strong kids, they eat their vegetables. They train, they work hard, they get good exercise. I mean, maybe they just are really strong. I don't know.
I guess so.
Yeah, they figured out some technique. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So no, that wasn't when they were rescuing. They just were looking for the dad, and they found him. And then they went back to tell the girl, "We found your dad." And then she insists on coming with. And then there's the weapon making montage. I was like, okay, they're making weapons out of household items and shit, Home Alone style.
Yeah.
They got like some nunchucks made. They like cut off all the barbs of barbed wires for like some like fucking Mario Kart type shit. They had like a squirt gun, fucking grappling hooks. They had a nice little montage, slingshots, shit like that. Just kid weapons, And they
excellent old school. Zombies ate my neighbors.
And so there was the it was actually an important montage for once because it showed they sawed the indigenous girl sawed off the actual tips of the bow and arrow because I'm surprised they even showed her doing that. I just assumed they would have blank arrows, but
well, I guess.
But during that it's found out like that the disc that the dad was trying to, it has the government dirt on the bad guys, was hidden inside that quiver that, she was making the arrows with. So and then I was just like, it was a few minute montage, and I was like, well, where the fuck's Gramps during this? This obviously probably took them hours to a half a day to make all the weapons. And he seems to be a pretty strict grandpa. He's grounding them and shit for, fighting in a piece of like, how are they being able to get away with this so much with this Mr. Miyagi type, disciplined grandpa? But, whatever, they did it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's interesting because like in these 3 ninja movies, he starts off coming across like a strict grandfather who's gonna like really lay down the law, but then like
And then
as
he's
they
just
go
gone.
along,
He's
yeah,
honestly just gone for most of the movie.
yeah, like he's kind of gone, and then he shows up and ends up kind of like saving the day in some way, or like doing something substantial, or like giving some kind of life lesson. But for the most part,
that's
he's
at yeah.
a pretty laid back ninja grandpa.
Yeah.
So.
So they go in, and this all takes like another hour for the rescue scene of the Gramps.
Yeah, it did take a while.
Oh my god. And
Yeah.
like
Lots of chase scenes.
yeah, so they have one of their little things was like a fake snake. they sneak in, they put a little snake underneath the door and rattle, and then the guard jumps out a window because he's like, all right, let's go with that, why not?
Yeah, I mean it's a kids movie, so
yeah, that's what I'll forgive it for that.
Although it was rated PG-13 though for some reason, like
non-stop ninja action.
There was a lot of ninja action.
That
the that is actual... literally on the back of the DVD.
You fucking gotta be kidding.
Non-stop ninja action. Yeah. PG-13. Three Ninjas Knuckle Up. That means that this movie has a higher MPAA rating than Clifford.
That's what I was just about to fucking ask.
Yeah,
it has a higher rating. Oh,
Clifford just has a
corruption.
Clifford has a PG. Clifford just has a PG for like mild language, or something like that. Like,
I'm gonna go grab the DVD.
That blows my mind.
Yeah, that is so funny. Non-stop ninja violence.
Hey, you can't. It's not wrong.
That's true. Wrong. Yeah.
But also, all the ninja violence was them just getting hit with sticks.
Yeah, it's fairly bloodless. There were only a few points where like there was like the risk of death. Otherwise, it was like, I don't know, pretty. I mean, this was definitely the most violent of all the Three Ninjas movies, I would say. Like of the three that I've seen. Yeah, because like Three Ninjas Kick Back, like that one has like a few fight scenes, and the first Three Ninjas has a few fight scenes as well, but this one definitely had the most fight scenes out of the three that I've seen. So
So when they were rescuing the dad, this was the obvious, like before the rescue scene, you could tell that there were the body doubles, the stunt doubles and stuff, but it wasn't it was not as obvious once they started getting into that warehouse.
Right.
Because once they were in the warehouse, you could tell they were full grown ass adults doing all these tricks. They didn't even try to hire shorter people on this scale. These were like legit, like tall people just jumping around doing fucking flips.
Yeah, that's another complaint I had about this movie is they were way more reliant on stunt doubles with this movie than they were with the other two. Like the other two, like there were a few stunt double shots, but most of the shots you could tell were the actual kids. But in this one, it was like 50-50. Yeah,
and I could see for one part, because one part they was using machinery, like they were like the disc fell into like a conveyor belt of trash, so they were like running up and down the conveyor belt, and I'm like, okay, there's probably legal reasons they couldn't use the kids to do just even something they probably could physically do, but it was full grown ass adults that didn't. I was like, what the fuck? They were, that's something that bothered me.
So did you find your DVD?
I did.
Excellent. My, nonstop. Yep, nonstop ninja action. PG-13.
Wow.
Parents strongly cautioned.
Jeez.
Strongly.
Wow. What the hell?
Yeah.
That's funny.
That is really funny. Yeah. That's one of the funny. I love those hilarious like ratings descriptors. Like I think one of my favorites was the Team America World Police one, where it was like
I had some good ones on it. I think a few good ones. I think
rated R for violent action, strong language and sexual content, all involving puppets.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. Anyway,
And I'll just say also at this point of the movie, fucking I wrote, I don't know, maybe half my notes are just covered in the word "Ayah!"
oh yeah, they
I was
say
gonna
"ayah"
say
a
that.
lot.
It was driving me up the fucking wall. Ayah!
Yeah.
They didn't even try to make up like "Hiya! Whoo! Yeah!" Just "Ayah!"
Ayah!
Was the only one. Was the only one. "Ayah! Ayah! Ayah!" They didn't.
Yeah.
They didn't try to mix up the sound effects or grunts. No, "Ayah!" the entire time.
New drinking game. Every time they say, yeah.
You'd be black out.
Yeah.
Black out
Yeah.
in 30 minutes.
Oh my gosh, yeah. No, you're right. They do say "ayah" a lot. That's the one. That's the one constant I think in all these Three Ninjas movies is
Is it
that
the
they say
ayah?
"ayah."
Oh,
Oh
fuck
yeah.
these. I'm never watching
Yeah.
another one.
Well,
then. No way.
but this one I'd say has more uses of "ayah" than the other ones. So, although I
Okay.
haven't seen High Noon at Mega Mountain yet, though, because I'm too afraid of Hulk Hogan. But
We'll get there.
What?
Yeah.
Is it on the list?
It's on the
it's on the
list.
bottom 100.
Yeah.
Okay. Shit. Okay.
Yeah. There must be a reason why it is on the list.
Fuck. Okay.
Too many ayahs.
Yeah.
Too many ayahs.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
All right. So they get the disc. They rescue the dad. They escape through the sewer.
Yeah.
The bad guys try to light them on fire. So
Yeah.
they like pour
Yeah.
a thing of gasoline, light it on fire. They're running another little chase scene again. I think just that sewer running from the fire lasted too long even.
Yeah.
Like-
That was pretty scary.
Like I could think, I mean, I know that oil like sits on fire and that would probably technically work, but I don't think it would be like an explosion type thing that I mean, maybe they're just,
Yeah.
I'm not a scientist. Maybe there's gases and shit down there, but for sure they wouldn't be running as long as they were for how long they were. They were like running on the goddamn sewer for a good minute and the fire was just chasing them or fucking all around. It's like
Yeah.
a sentient fire was chasing them through the sewers. And
Pretty
even
much.
so, like the amount of gasoline they poured down wouldn't have done that much. So
Yeah. Well,
we got Ninja Turtles though. Respect.
yeah. I mean, I'd
Escaping
say
through them sewers. Any good ninja has to know the sewer routes of the city.
I always love a good sewer chase scene. I mean, sometimes they're the highlight of the movie. Sometimes sewer scenes can be really impressive. Sometimes. I mean, I always think of Children of Men, and like Miracle Mile and stuff like that. But I mean, I don't know. Like, what about Ghostbusters 2? Like, some people said that feel like that was the best part of that movie.
I didn't like that part. It might have been my least favorite part. Well, honestly, I was like, it may have, like, because I didn't really like Ghostbusters 2, and that may have been like the down. Like, I'm also not a fan of goo stuff, but like, besides the Blob,
Yeah.
the Blob.
I
is
actually,
good, but
I'm
yeah.
not crazy about Ghostbusters 2 either. So, I much prefer the first one. So,
Mhm. Always.
and
But
then, then there was that remake they never made.
what do you? I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, go on.
All right, so this is the point where I thought the movie would be mostly done. Like maybe they would have a scene of them taking the disc to the Capitol, or not the Capitol, but to the good guys. But no, it's like still maybe an hour left. I think it was like I was like, in all in 30 minutes of it being chasing fight scenes. So they're at a Native American powwow, which was cool. I liked this little scene. It was nice and cute.
That was cool. Yeah, that was charming.
But
then they went overboard.
You mentioned it earlier, and I was like, I'll hold on to that. They fucking busted out a goddamn dance routine.
Yeah,
I wrote down on
me.
Yeah, I wrote down on my notes. Oh, instant 1-star loss for this goddamn dance scene. Instant.
Every time I see that in a movie, I'm gonna say that they pulled a Mac and me. Like, when characters just spontaneously start breaking into dancing and singing, like that's just what I'm gonna think of it as being from here on out. Like, yeah, this movie, yeah, that was the Mac and me moment in this movie, was the dancing.
Yep.
Everybody was so synchronized. It was like they practiced it like how many times? It's like, wow.
Yeah. So, shit. This is so it gets a little confusing because it's interspersed now. It gets interspersed with the courtroom hearings of the bad guys. As confusing as this straightforward plot can be, it's a little interspersed with the courtroom hearings of the bad guys and the indigenous land defenders. With basically the climax. So the bad guys come in, ruin the powwow, and unfortunately the three ninjas can't do anything this time because they have guns. And then they kidnap the daughter because the dad somehow the dad gets away. They kidnap the daughter. Gramps comes, I think, is this the scene where Gramps comes in finally?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, so Gramps comes in and saves the day, whoops all ass. And it's an obvious body double. So poor. Like there was one little non-body double stunt that I think he did, and it made me laugh so fucking hard. It was literally just like a frame. The framing was just him from his like chest up, and he just did a little old man jump. Like it wasn't even like any type of good jump. Like it was like an elderly man trying his hardest to jump, but he didn't make it a half an inch. And he's like, yeah. And that was probably the only stunt he did in the entire movie. And it made me laugh so hard because the body double was such a body double.
Yeah.
Because you never saw it. They never even tried to show him from the front at all. Like with the kid body doubles, every now and then they would show them from the front, but it also helped that they had war paint on, which I'm assuming was just a cover for the fucking body doubles.
I think so.
Half the movie had war paint on.
I think you're right. Yeah. Although it was still kind of cute seeing the kids, dressed up in paint and,
and it
doing ninja stuff. I mean,
made somewhat sense charming because it was like native body paint or whatever. Like the girl did it first because she's native and it's her tribal thing, and the guy saw it and was like, "Oh, that's cool. I want to do it." So they did.
Yeah.
It was cool. It's fine. It was fine. Yeah. It was a good way to hide body doubles. Good little.
Yeah. It was a charming touch, and like you said, hide the body doubles. So.
2 birds, 1 stone.
Exactly. These filmmakers are efficient. Which okay, so now I was kind of reading about the trivia of these movies, and one of them, and it might have been this one, but I'm not sure, but one of them was directed by a filmmaker who was kidnapped by the North Korean government and forced to make propaganda movies.
The fuck?
Yeah. And I can't remember if it was this one, but I think like they escaped sometime in the early 90s, and then they went on to direct the Three Ninjas movie.
Yeah, I think it was this one.
Was it? Okay.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's wild.
Isn't that twisted? I mean, people don't realize. Yeah. Some crazy stuff that happens in this world sometimes, I swear. Yeah. And I think he escaped like during a film festival or something, or he somehow managed to send a message to somebody in some kind of international film festival about what was going on. And but I was reading about that after I watched the Three Ninjas or before I watched, and I was just I went into one of those like sort of weird internet wormholes where I'm just exploring the world of the Three Ninjas and trying to make sense of it all. Anyway.
Yeah. So I guess to end up the film, it was the court hearing. They were blackmailing the dad to give a false, confession because they had her daughter and, threatening her life or whatever.
Yeah.
interspersed with a car chase scene to get to the little girl.
Yeah.
Which the kids were driving, and that was some funny little bits,
Yeah.
but still far too long.
Oh yeah,
and
a lot of jokes.
Yeah. But anyway, I guess it doesn't really matter too much. But anyways, they get
to a bar or something, and there's like a dance fight scene thing, isn't there?
Maybe. I know that.
I know something like that.
Oh yes.
Happens.
Okay. Yes. They get to a fight scene with a bar. There was like, and I don't know. There's so goddamn many of them. But this one I do. I do remember because it was a jukebox fight scene.
Yeah.
They smashed a bad guy into the jukebox, and some Spanish music started playing.
Yeah.
And they fought to that for 20 minutes.
Yeah, it was like tango, wasn't there? Like tango music, and then the boys were tangoing and while beating up all these guys, and it was like, it was again a really long sequence.
Yeah. They eventually. Wait, let me see. I guess so. Who I don't remember who has the disc at this point, because the bad guys. No, okay, no, he does. Okay, so the dad that's trying to defend the land does have the disc, but the bad guy has his daughter, and he hands him a fake disc. That's what happened. He hands him a fake disc to say, this is what you're gonna give them, or your daughter's dead. And so that's happening while they're rescuing the daughter. So they after like 12.5 fight scenes and chase scenes, the kids get the girl to safety back to the courthouse. Again, so many goddamn fight scenes, just getting to and from every location. But they got the girl in safety. They give them the correct disc. The bad guys are in trouble. The good guys win.
Yeah. And it's a great scene because they crash the courthouse, and it's like, oh, yeah. And then the bad guys, it's like, oh shoot, the jig is up, and so then they stand there, they look embarrassed, and typical kind of kids empowerment fantasy where the stupid, boring adults with the suits get humiliated for being idiots like they are, and then
going to jail forever.
Haha, suckers.
Oh, and one joke I actually legitimately laughed. Probably the only one, I think, besides the cut of the Gramps jumping a half a centimeter. It was when they were actually escaping driving. The older brother just drove reversed right into a tree, and he's like, that came out of nowhere. And
that was funny.
And one of the brothers just said, 100 years ago.
Yeah,
I was like, because even some of the dialogue early in the movie, I thought, oh, this is actually probably written by adults, because they were saying more non-kid stuff. But that ended about 15 minutes in, and it was definitely kid dialogue.
Yeah,
because I was initially impressed with the older kid, the oldest brother's acting and stuff.
Yeah,
initially.
Right. Yeah, my favorite actor of them has always, and my favorite character has always been the Colt character, just because, I don't know, something about his attitude, and I just feel like that actor, whoever his name was, something Elliot something, I don't remember. I feel like his delivery just overall had, I don't know, he just had a better kind of, I don't know, he just was spunkier.
Yeah,
it's hard to really explain what I mean. But
he had a more carefree attitude.
Yeah.
Not as carefree as Tum Tum, though.
No.
He was like a gummy worm hanging out of his mouth the entire movie.
Pretty much, yeah. He's constantly snacking on things, and he does the same thing in all the other movies. So
I figured his name's Tum Tum.
Exactly. Yeah.
No midnight snacks for you, Tum Tum.
You don't think with your mind, you think with your tum-tum.
Oh, and okay, so the final point I wanted to mention was the
flower, right?
The flower, yes. So at the beginning, they give the little riddle, the little mystical foreign ancestral of what does the flower say when it opens. And then the older brother like has, I don't know, some trip scene, like he's laying in the field after everything's said and done and is like stripping balls almost because he's just watching a flower open and close all, and is like, oh,
it's a really beautiful shot.
Was it though?
Well,
it was just a flower. Could have just been B footage that they bought. I don't know.
Yeah, but it was beautiful B footage at least.
Yeah, it was a pretty flower. I'll give it that. It was a pretty flower. And then so he has the epiphany. It says nothing. And then Tumtum's like, what do you mean? The Colt's like, what do you mean? The flower says nothing. And they run to Gramps to tell him that we know what you mean. And they're like, and they're all smart asses now, like, because he's watering the flowers, and they're smart asses like, hey, so what do the flowers say when you water them? And the Gramps is like, well, what do you think they say? And then they're like, nothing, because they're flowers. And they don't need to show off. They're just being pretty. That's all they want to do. They don't want to show off. I'm like, what does that have to do with the point of this entire movie? Like, you'd think it had to do with something with bad, like corporate corruption, invading land of people that own it type shit. But no, it was like, don't be a show off. that's what the plot of that whole riddle was.
Yeah, because I guess that's kind of ultimately why this movie doesn't really like work all that well, is like the plot about the environmental issues and stuff is obviously like the more pressing matter, but then like the message is, don't be an instigator.
Yeah.
Then it's like, okay, I mean, it was sort of a stretch though, to kind of have him look at a flower and then think, oh, a flower doesn't instigate. It's like, well, no, of course a flower doesn't instigate. It's a flower. Like flowers, like don't. I mean, we're not. This isn't the Happening.
Who drank my lemonade?
Anyway, but overall, Three Ninjas Knuckle Up. I don't know. What were your thoughts overall?
Mine?
Sure.
It definitely does not hold up. That is for sure.
Yeah.
As a kid, I can see it being pretty good, but as an adult, no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like you're saying, the fight scenes are too long. Like, I don't mind long fight scenes if they're good.
Mm-hmm.
And these weren't that good.
Yeah. Agreed.
I'd give it a 2.5.
Cool.
Yeah, I'd give it a 2.5. It's a good kids movie. Like, if you are a parent and want, I don't know how long this movie was, but it felt fucking long for sure. If you want to distract your kids for a good hour with a movie, this is a fine one to do it with.
Your kid will be asleep by the end of it. I mean, the fight scenes, that's the main problem with them, is there's just way too many of them. They don't stop. And then eventually you kind of get burnt out after an hour, and then it just kind of goes on, So they definitely made sure to like load up on the action and violence in this sequel, but I feel like it kind of lost some of its wit. Like there was something a little bit more genuine about the way they did it in the first film, and even with the sequel, Kickback, which wasn't as good as the first one, but at the same time, like it was like, this film kind of just, I could see why this movie didn't come out right away, because it is weaker than those two. So I'd give it a 2 just because like I still enjoyed it, but I would have enjoyed it more if I were a kid. So I should have watched it when I was a kid, but I didn't. So
yeah, same. Probably would have liked it.
Yeah. But having said that, now it is on to our final film that we did for this, that you chose, Zach.
Yeah. I chose Freaked,
Yeah.
starring, directed, and written by Alex Winter.
Yeah. Quite the multitasker.
Yeah. Also, before I start, apologies for the camera shit. It's overheating.
Uh,
So if it goes
okay.
out, I'll just keep talking.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's fine.
So I chose this one because it's like a notoriously out of print DVD and stuff. I've always
Yep.
wanted to check it out. But actually, upon watching it, a lot of it seemed familiar. And I think I saw this in college, but was too stoned to retain anything.
Yeah.
I could imagine that, honestly. Like, I could imagine watching this in a state of mind where I'm just all dreamed out and then like confuse it with like a nightmare or like have it just kind of slip into my subconscious and not really be able to retain any of it until a future date when I watch it again and realize I'd seen it before. I could easily picture that happening with this movie because
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
film is very dreamlike anyway,
And I also, like, last week or when you chose it, I was like, didn't we do this one? I remember asking that, but it was because it's one of the YouTube people I watch, one of YouTube movie. They did a review on it, and so I basically knew the whole movie going in as well.
Was it Red Letter Media?
Yep.
Okay, yeah.
Okay.
So and I did pull some facts from that video too, just to sprinkle throughout, just because
Oh,
there are
cool.
some interesting facts that they stumble upon that I didn't have any want to do the research for.
Yeah, well, I haven't really watched any reviews of this or anything, but I'm pretty sure I saw this like a really long time ago. I vaguely remember possibly renting it, but it was so long ago that I don't really I remember certain images from this for sure. Like I remember the stuff with the plane with the guy in the wheelchair falling out of the plane and like a few other things. Like there were just like specific things that I remembered here and there, but I didn't remember. But for the most part, I don't think I like. This may as well have been a first time viewing because the first time I watched it, I don't think I even followed the plot, which is actually kind of understandable. So.
Yeah.
This movie, Jesus, the plot is like a novel.
Yeah. And it does a huge bomb. I just noticed the budget and the box office.
I know the budget was.
Holy shit.
I know it. I do know it.
Oh yeah. What is the budget?
Budget was 12 million.
Oh,
and
geez,
it made.
Okay.
Guess how much it made?
500,000.
It was 29,000.
Fuck.
Ooh.
Yeah, way over. So that's one thing I did learn as well from. So the making of this movie was a lot. It had to do a lot with Alex Winters, of course. He got his start. I don't know how much of his history you know of it. It was like on MTV. On MTV, that show called fucking Idiot Box. It had one season.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like 6 episodes. So that's where he got his start, and it had a shit ton of like reoccurring themes from that. There were a couple of recurring character types. Like a lot of the animation was the same. Like they had that claymation type shit in that, and just the whole comedy sense in general of like how aggressive this movie was and whatnot, and like how fucking weird and fucked up and bizarre.
Yeah.
So that's where a lot of it came from. And then apparently this was supposed to be. It initially started as a script for like a movie film, or a music film for the Butthole Surfers, like one of those type of musical movie films.
Yeah.
But then it just eventually moved into this, which is why like the soundtrack came out. That's why the Red Letter Media guys did it like a few years back, was because they had a soundtrack that came out which had a few of the unreleased tracks that were on it that were planned for it before it got changed into what it was.
Oh,
Like the theme song that you hear during the credits was by Harry Rollins, the
yeah.
actor. He's the one
From
that
like
named it,
yeah.
or not named it, but sang the theme song. And like what is it? Iggy Pop was even like was supposed to make one of the songs for it. That's on the soundtrack, but not in the movie.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Well, this movie had a hell of a soundtrack. I mean, there was a lot of very like it was a very specific kind of like genre that they were kind of. It was like this type of. It was like sort of like experimental grunge rock type early 90s. I mean, you mentioned Butthole Surfers but like
I mean, yeah.
I think there was also, I think it might have had like a Mr. Bungle and like a couple other
Yeah.
bands like that on it as well. Like I mean, I definitely recognized some of the music, but then some of it just sounded totally like, I don't know, like this movie felt like it was made in a different universe. Like, I know I said that about Clifford, but like this one like genuinely feels that way. Like,
Yeah, and more thing about the budget too is that during the actual, once it was done, and there was like a regime change for, it was 20th Century Fox or whatever. There was like a regime change during it, and the new people fucking hated it, and it also test shittily, even though they poured a fuck ton of money into it and whatnot. But they basically shelved it, or like just silent released it. And that's
okay.
why there's like no digital shit and no stuff. There was just like a regime change at the higher ups. Once it was done and being shown to, they were like, fuck this movie, no.
Oh, damn. Okay, that makes sense. Because yeah, test audiences can really sink a movie. Like a lot of films have gotten like poor test audiences, and it's resulted in the films being like re-edited to within an inch of their life, or whatever. Like, because I guess that Avengers movie that is on the bottom 100 is another example of that. That is a movie that, like, I guess it started off as one thing, and then test audiences didn't like it, and so the studios panicked and cut out a shit ton and then released it hoping that people would like it more. I don't know. Test audiences are something I think kind of should be probably like not done, because it seems to like kind of cause more harm than good, because I don't think the average audience is going to enjoy a movie like this.
No,
Like,
they're just grabbing people off the street too. Like,
yeah,
I think for test audiences, and you kind of want to do at least someone who would do some type of background. Like, what's your interest in movies? What kind of, like, not just like the mom shopping at a mall.
Yeah, seems like you're asking for trouble, because this movie, the humor in this movie. I mean, the humor in this movie is really crass, it's wicked gross, but it's also really smart humor too.
Yes, definitely.
Like, yeah, which is an interesting combination. Like, it's not often that you see like smart gross out humor, but it does exist. We can all think of examples, and yeah, this movie, like, there, like, you could tell like there was actually a lot of thought put into like the jokes, and a lot of it actually did make me laugh like really hard. Like, I actually thought this movie was pretty hysterical, to be honest.
Yeah.
And I just loved how like it just kind of had no sort of specific sort of what do you call it, like, it wasn't going after anybody specifically, it was just sort of tearing everything down. It just had like a really lawless sort of vision, where just the logic, all of it was just like, it just felt so wild, but I don't know, do you want to read the plot summary, or?
Yeah.
Okay.
So Sky Daly, played by Brooke Shields, is interviewing former child star Ricky Coogan, who's Alex Winter. Sky asks how Ricky so quickly went from one of America's sweethearts to a name that makes children scream in terror. Ricky, completely in silhouette, begins his story. Ricky is shown accepting an endorsement contract from slimy mega corporation EES, everything except shoes.
which
Is it?
actually makes sense later in the movie, but
Yeah.
at the beginning of the movie, it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense.
Yeah.
Then eventually, when you figure out why, it's like, oh, okay, excellent. Like,
Yeah,
now
it
it
was-
makes it.
There you go. Well written, dumb joke.
Yeah. And actually, I will admit, after I watched this movie, I did kind of go back through the movie and rewatch certain scenes, like, because like a lot of the jokes like did go over my head the first time through, but then like later on, I like revisited them and they made sense.
Yeah. And during that not the courtroom scene, but the board meeting where they're trying to get Ricky Coogan on board, he was like, what are you talking about? Doesn't that like kill people, or it's bad? And then like there was just like his assistant was like an Indian actor
Yeah.
from India. I should I guess clarify. I was like, no, this is not bad, not bad. And then it cuts back, and he's shorter, like he like starts shrinking.
Yeah.
And it's the actor that plays the Oompa Loompas in the Johnny Depp Willy Wonka.
Oh
The
yeah.
first one.
I remember him. Yeah.
Yep. And then it cuts away again, cuts back, and he's even shorter. And it happens to be that world's shortest person that I think isn't that the guy that was in Dr. Moreau with that Marlon Brando?
With
had an
Marlon
obsession with?
Brando.
Yeah, it was.
Oh
he
yeah,
was
during the piano scene.
It was that guy. That guy. Yeah.
I think, yeah. Okay. Cool. Yeah, I did. But that was an example of a scene though that like when I first watched it, like there was a lot going on in it, like because like they were like approving this fertilizer, and then Alex Winter, he was like supposed to be like, because like they were kind of playing off the whole like this movie, it was almost like a satire of actually no, I would say this movie was like a satire of the whole like child actor syndrome, where like, you know, a child actor gets like pampered by Hollywood or by like the press or whatever, and like and they become like sort of image obsessed and narcissistic, you know. So Alex Winter is kind of playing like basically like a prototypical like narcissistic former child actor character.
Yeah.
And so like this movie kind of throws a lot of like, it throws all of that kind of at you really fast, that he's this type of person. And also you got Brooke Shields playing like the talk show host, and Brooke Shields, I mean, we all know like what her history was as a child actor. So like that in and of itself, like the casting, you could tell they put thought into the casting like of Brooke Shields, you know, just to kind of set that joke up even further. And then during the boardroom scene, you know, he has the one guy who like pulls the string and has everybody approving and all that. Like there were just so many jokes that I just had to go back and sort of like rewatch it and be like, okay, now I get the plot. Like,
and I learned that boss guy is the death in Bill and Ted 2.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Bill
Bill
and
Ted.
Yeah.
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 So there's a connection there too. Yeah.
Yeah. That's excellent.
Yeah, so they're promoting Zygote 24 is the name of the fertilizer.
Yeah.
In South America. Although hesitant at first, the greedy, self-centered Coogan caves in after the CEO offers him $5 million, which I thought that was a funny scene. He looked to all his cronies and was like, what do you guys think? And they're all like, nah, no. And then Alex Winter just like, all right, gives him the thumbs up.
That was funny. Oh, and I also just realized Coogan, his last name, I'm guessing that's probably like a play on the silent child actor Jackie Coogan, who he ended up being like ripped off by his parents after he became 18. He found out that his parents spent like his entire savings that he made from being a child actor. So, but I'm guessing that like his last name Coogan is like maybe a reference to him.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah. I mean, obviously Alex Winter is a smart person because Jesus.
Yeah, he is. Yeah, definitely could tell.
Yeah.
Ricky travels to the South American town of Santa Flan with his friend Ernie.
They asked, what does that even mean? It's the saint of custard.
Yeah. There's a lot of dessert jokes in this scene.
Oh, yeah. And Ernie is kind of like a sleazy character.
Yeah. During their flight, the duo have a run-in with Ricky's 12-year-old fan, Stewie Gluck.
Oh, that motherfucker.
Stewie begs Ricky not to promote Zygrot 24, only to accidentally fall out of the plane.
I mean, okay. I don't know if we really touched on this that we should have probably said first. This is a fucking weird, crazy, insane, chaotic bananas movie. Like, just chaos, pure chaos is what it would be. This kid had a fake ears, like they made him look like a fucking like a not like fake big ass ears, huge buck teeth, big hair, and they beat the shit out of him just because I don't fucking know why.
It was weird because he was played by that little like that curly red-haired kid from Hook, like, which I could only tell because of his voice, but he had so much makeup on that, like, and he was wearing these big glasses too and like was adorned with freckles and stuff that you couldn't even tell it was him. But he pretty much just gets pummeled throughout the entire movie.
I'm like, I was so confused by that character.
Yeah. Well, he ends up being important later.
Yeah.
But that's the thing about this movie is it introduces a lot of things and then doesn't like explain what they are until later. So.
Oh, and I will say his stunt double, like, he gets thrown through the glass doors of later on. His stunt double was I forget the actor's name, but the same guy that was the Oompa Loompa for the Johnny Depp one. Yeah. He was the stunt double for that kid. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
This is about the same size.
I read he got super injured when they threw him through the door too.
Oh.
Which one? You got through the like three.
I guess I don't know, the last one probably, where he threw himself out.
Oh, the one where he jumped out. Yeah.
Yeah. Apparently he was like bleeding out like a lot after that.
Oh, fuck.
Holy crap. This kid gets thrown through windows. At one point he gets kidnapped. Like all this crazy stuff happens to him.
Yeah.
Yeah. He probably gets it the worst out of everybody in this movie, actually.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Which is he does have some competition this time around. So.
Ricky and Ernie arrive in Santa Flan, which when they do is a really dark joke about a plane exploding.
Oh yeah, I was like, oh, what the fuck was that? And they were just like, oh, good thing that wasn't our plane.
Oh, that made me laugh so hard. Oh my god, I was like, oh, I'm so going to hell. But yeah, that was so funny.
Like, I actually almost was gonna ask, from the last one, I was in Clifford. I was like, wait, was that bit in Clifford or when am I just misremembering?
Might as well have been in that one.
Yeah.
It could have happened in Clifford, but instead they decided to save it for the weirder movie.
Yeah.
Once they arrive, they cross paths with a group of environmentalists protesting Zygrot 24 and Ricky himself. In the group is Julie, who Ricky becomes instantly smitten with.
Yeah.
The two con Julie into thinking they're also environmentalists, with Ricky posing as a highly injured accident victim, his face covered in bandages. And she agrees to join them on a trip to another protest. However, she soon finds out that their true identities, and the three are stuck with each other for the rest of the drive. They decide to take a detour to see Freakland, a local freak show, only to wind up in the clutches of a demented proprietor and mad scientist Elijah C. Scuggs, played by Randy Quaid.
And actually, one thing that I thought was interesting was how, like, so another, like, this movie there's some political humor in there too, because like this girl, so she's kind of this like human rights like feminist activist type person, right? But then she totally switches that whole persona once she realizes, oh, like I can make money or something like that. Like once there's like a freak show, like once they encounter the actual like freak show group, and then she kind of sees the money making potential of it, she kind of switches, which is like, I forget, they said like some kind of smart thing with that, or they did something smart with it, but I don't remember. But it was just, like I don't know, the way they approached that was, there was definitely some self-awareness there. I think
definitely, because, well, I mean, yeah, just keep going, because there is,
yeah.
Oh
yeah, because it does become important to the plot. I just remember,
and it becomes even just like on the nose too.
Oh yeah. Oh, I think you're
No,
muted.
You're muted right now.
Okay. Sorry.
No
Utilizing his tasty freaks machine, he merges Julie and Ernie into a single body and turns.
Okay, so yes, that was what I was about to say. Is those two characters are polar opposites. Like one's a male chauvinist, she's a feminist, dude. Mix
yeah.
them together, of course, nail on the head. Opposites. That's what I was gonna say.
Yeah.
That was funny. That was good too. I like that.
Which that was a cool little effect too. The little claymation stuff going on there.
There's a lot of cool claymation shit in this.
Yeah, although, you see, it was another moment where I had to kind of rewind. I'm not sure if I saw what I thought I saw, but then I rewound it, and indeed I did. That was the sight of Gumby looking at Pokey and like
jerking
fiddling. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Like, what? And didn't he just turn around and flip off the camera or whatever?
Yeah. Yeah, he's like, yeah. It was like one of those moments where I like my mind didn't absorb it right away. Yeah, I was like, okay.
Yeah, that is.
Whoa.
I mean, that is the thing. There was a lot of multimedia arts in it, because there was going back to like the Idiot Box TV show Alex Winters does. There was a bunch of claymation shit. And one note I had is from watching the Red Letter Media thing, I learned that like in the beginning of the title sequence, there's like a bunch of claymation, like really interesting looking stuff. But the way the claymator did it was like he would make a loaf of clay that had layers in it that would like switch throughout the layers, and it's kind of hard to describe without like we're just talking about it, but like it was kind of like frame by frame, except cutting loaves of clay. Like,
okay.
All
right, I think
and it would evolve into like different things. So it was a really interesting way to.
Yeah, no. I know exactly what you're talking about. Actually, I've seen that. Like, it's yeah. Well, I didn't know that they did it with clay, but I know that they do that with like certain things. And there's I mean, this might be kind of gross, but there's a museum that has it's like an anatomy museum that uses actual cadavers, and they kind of show the different layers of the body, like which I don't know if you guys have seen that, but it's actually really interesting. But
I have seen that.
But they show each layer and they like separate them so that you can actually see like every piece of them and stuff, and it kind of so basically this guy does that, but he uses it as like animation, like with clay. That's cool. That's really cool, actually. I think I may have seen like a part or like a little bit of the Idiot Box, but I think it was one of those shows that I think it just scared the crap out of me, and I just never watched it, or I like maybe watched a part of it or something, or like watched like part of a clip or something. Like,
it was. I haven't seen any of it, but it looked weird as hell. It looked very freaked like.
Yeah, I believe it. Because if this is the kind of humor he uses, it's like, oh, that's interesting. But anyway, Let's see, and then what else happened? So after they get morphed together, like
He does it on Ricky Coogan, but
right.
he ran out halfway through, so that's why his body was halfway done.
Okay, that's it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's as Elijah has run out of Zygrat, only half of Ricky's body is mutated.
Okay, I think I missed that part. So,
Okay.
like, I saw him getting mutated, but I forgot why. So I missed why. Whatever. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Go on.
So then he gets sent to an outhouse, which turns out to be this giant warehouse thing.
That was crazy when they show like the exterior of it and they open it and then it goes into like that giant like building. I love stuff like that. That makes me think of nightmares that I've had. Those are the type of nightmares I have where I go into a space that I think is small, but then it turns out to be big, or like I'm in a building and I feel like I've been in every room, but I keep finding rooms or something like that. Those are the kind of nightmares that I have. And so like that moment was really cool for me, like to see like them open that small building and then have it actually launch into a large building. Just stuff like that always sketches me out. So I appreciated that very much.
Yeah, it was a really cool effect.
Yeah.
Ricky meets the other freaks, including Ortiz the dog boy, who's played by an uncredited Keanu Reeves.
Yep.
Yeah, Ortiz, and he like scratches his head with his paw or with his hind leg or whatever. That's funny.
Worm, a giant arthropod. Cowboy, a literal anthropomorphic cow, who's played by John Hawkes.
That was awesome.
I didn't notice that until I looked up. I was like, oh, I love John Hawkes too.
Yeah. His voice ends up being pretty important to the plot too.
Yeah. The bearded lady, who is Mr. T.
Oh God, yeah.
It's that flashback with Randy Quaid. Hey, you'd be better if you didn't have a dick. What?
Yeah.
Oh, you get to keep the beard though. Oh.
Okay, yeah.
That made me laugh harder than anything. Like, that was...
Yeah. That was great. And Sockhead, played by Bobcat Goldthwait, who has a sock puppet for a head.
Yeah. And I think at one point his sock falls off and he's just like
another hand.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they all get angry at him. They're all like,
yeah,
you're like a fake body. They all start attacking him.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then wasn't there like some toad frog person or something?
Yeah.
There was two. There was one I'll say is that it was Frogman, which was just a guy in a scuba suit who had one line that was French.
Yeah.
Great.
And then there was Toad guy.
Toad was the henchman of the main bad guy, I guess.
And at some point in the midst of all this madness, he eats a plane.
Oh yeah. When they're digging under him.
Yeah. Like suddenly like his tongue comes out and suddenly a plane comes down and he swallows it and then just goes on.
I missed that shit.
I mean, there's so much to miss.
There's so much going on.
This movie's just constantly throwing stuff at. Every shot has something. Like it's
fucking
it's
bananas.
nuts. Anyway,
there's also Nosy. It's just the guy's head's basically a nose.
Okay, yeah.
And then there's the human flame, which is a dude just farting flames the whole movie.
Yeah.
Which is surprisingly funny. Like somehow they make it funny. I don't even know how.
Yeah, I don't know. Like there's literal fart noises every time in the whole scenes that he was in.
Just constantly farting.
casually in the background.
Yeah, just non-stop farting, and like I don't laugh at fart jokes that much, like they can be funny. It's just most of the time they're not, and oftentimes the reason they're not is because they're so easy to do. Like all you have to do is just make a fart noise, and that's it. Like, and haha, the whole audience will laugh. But like a smart fart joke like that, where it's just farting happening in the background, like it's just, it makes me think of the broken the broken horn on the car in Little Miss Sunshine, where it's just like somehow the noises are so obnoxious, but they make these scenes where other stuff is happening just so much funnier.
Yeah.
So.
Ricky has trouble adjusting to his new life as a freak, though he opens up when some of the other freaks recount how they were captured and disfigured by Elijah, which a lot of the people I mentioned did that. And then there was the Hammer, who was a wrench before.
Yeah. Yeah. And by far the saddest story.
Yeah. Everyone tears up.
Yeah.
That was so fucking funny too.
Yeah, there's just a lot of little shit like that makes this movie even better.
Yeah, it was definitely like you can tell. I mean, Alex Winters is definitely talented.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Like, no, it's like the jokes. There's always more to them than just the visceralness of it. Like, yeah. But anyway. So yeah, then what happened?
So Ricky is forced to perform in their little sideshow. During his first performance, Ricky forgoes his act and performs a Shakespearean monologue, which captivates the audience. Spotting his agent in the crowd, Ricky jumps off the stage, hoping to be rescued, but flies into a murderous rage when the agent makes fun of him.
Oh yeah. Doesn't he like eat him or something? Or
Yeah, Ricky tears his agent's head off, and the crowd runs screaming into the night.
He just pops it off.
Yeah.
With Elijah simply noting, "That's what I call entertainment."
By the way, Randy Quaid pretty much just playing himself.
Oh, it was a brilliant performance by him. It was so good.
Does he still hold up in Vermont these days?
Oh, I think so, actually. Going crazy in some cabin somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could try to find him.
Yeah. The next day, Ricky discovers to his horror that he is seeing a floating specter of Stewie. He angrily shoos Stewie's astral form away, but Cowboy states that only a pair of soulmates can have such a strong telepathic bond.
Okay. All right. So it's kind of like about like the whole idea of like a young kid who, wants to like perform and it gets into the arts and stuff like that. And, watches like a movie that has a young actor in it who kind of reminds them of him or them or whatever, like just kind of seeing themselves in somebody else and then living vicariously through them. It's kind of the impression I got. It's like, because this kid is ugly or I shouldn't say ugly, but looks odd, I guess, is sort of the way they put it early on in the movie. Later on he turns ugly, but
they call him a troll throughout the whole movie.
That's true. Yeah.
Who's that fucking troll?
Yeah. And so obviously it's this kid who probably knows he's ugly and liked Ricky's movies and wanted to be like Ricky, which is why he doesn't want him to be corrupt. So
yeah. What was it? After multiple failed attempts to sell the story to newspapers, Stewie manages to sell Ricky's story to the Weekly World News.
Yes,
but ends
which
up
I
being,
appreciated.
Yeah, I hadn't heard of them in a while.
Yeah, talk about 90s. Oh
yeah.
Man.
But ends up being captured by a group of businessmen that work for the EES.
Okay.
Then Ricky tries to escape by stealing the outfit of a milkman, only to be captured by Skug's gun-toting Rastafarian eyeball henchman and brought before Elijah.
And I will
Yeah.
and even before that, it was the funniest fucking thing is he did it, and then all other of the guys, all other of the freaks trying to escape as well came out with milkman outfits.
Yeah.
And then it was fucking like
It almost works.
Mr. T was like 12 milkmen are theoretically possible, but 13, no way. And they all get into a fight. No, it was 13 is silly.
13, that's silly.
And fucking Skuggs was watching outside and he says, that's a lot of milkmen on the same route. No wonder they fight.
Yeah.
He was watching like all these freaks dressed in thing and didn't understand what was going on. He's like, oh, there's a lot of milkmen out there fighting.
And then the way Ricky got the milkman suit by coming out of the outhouse and telling the milkman that there's a shit that I just took that looks like a nude Kim Basinger.
That's right, yeah.
This movie's great.
And didn't the guy correct him and say somebody else? Like, no, that's like more like a dressed, I forget who the actress was.
Yeah, Farrah Fawcett or someone.
Yeah.
Doesn't look more like Farrah Fawcett. Yeah, no.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my God, that's some funny stuff. Wow. Oh.
Yeah. So Ricky was captured by a gun-toting Rastafarian eyeball henchman
Yeah.
and brought to Elijah. Skuggs tells Ricky he plans to have him fully mutated into a bloodthirsty monster who will kill all the other freaks at the next show.
Okay.
On his way back to the freaks' shed, he runs into the other freaks. Oh, also making an escape attempt, all dressed as milkmen.
Oh, okay, so that's where it was. Yep.
Yeah.
Ricky butts heads with Ortiz, and the two fight until Ortiz is distracted by a squirrel and runs off. The Rasta eyeballs in pursuit. With Ortiz gone, Ricky is named the new freaks leader. Ricky and the freaks break into Skuggs' lab to create a serum that will complete Ricky's mutation and have him kill Skuggs instead of the freaks. Ricky accidentally leaves the concoction in the lab, but finds a bag of macaroons, which the freaks enjoy.
Yeah, that was a little funny bit.
And I like that they actually made sure to include that part in the Wikipedia.
Yeah, it does become important.
It actually does, yeah.
But at the time, it was like, okay, that's random.
Yeah. Yeah, even in the movie, it's like, oh, well, we didn't find what we were looking for. But look, there's this delicious bag of macaroons that we can enjoy.
Yeah. Ricky eventually finds out that the EES has been supplying Elijah with Zygrot, and they arrive at Freakland with a new shipment and an imprisoned Stewie Gluck. As they discuss their plans to mutate the world's population into a race of EES workers and consumers, Stewie follows a telepathic tip from Ricky and manages to escape, grabbing the coffee can of mutation goo left behind by Ricky along the way. On the night of the show, Stewie appears with a batch of Zygrot, only to have an annoyed biker dump it onto him, which turns him into a grotesque 7-foot monster, which was pretty awesome looking.
Yeah.
The effects in this movie were nuts.
Yeah.
That's where the 12 million went to. The effects of, like definitely like all the costume and special and whatever the effects. Yeah, costume. Yeah.
The 12 million was well spent. It reminded me almost of the effects in that movie Society. Like, it was just really disgusting and gnarly, but also like really detailed too. Like,
Yeah.
like the puppetry and the way it all operated and stuff. It looks so insane, you know. Like
I know. According to the Wikipedia, Steven Chiodo was one of the producers, and the Chiodos brothers did the Killer Clowns from Outer Space makeup and effects. So I'm assuming they did all this stuff in this one too, since he produced it.
Yeah, I'll have to look it up. It was either him or, because I think I was reading about it. It was either him or like Screaming Mad George or somebody like that. Like,
I think I read that name somewhere too.
Yeah. Which I think that was the same person that did the effects for like Bride of Reanimator or something like that. But anyway, so yeah, and also again, like the final battle sequence in this movie, like it's so off the wall, and the camera work and the visuals and everything are so nuts that I would imagine that if I were watching this on drugs, I wouldn't know what I was watching. Like I would just
pure chaos.
Yeah. Really wild. So, but somehow hilarious. Like, just I don't know. It manages to be like funny while grossing you out. You know, it's like it just had that good like sort of zaniness about it. So.
Yeah, and the gross out shit, like we haven't mentioned it yet, but there's so many close-ups of just pus coming out of Ricky.
Yeah. He had like a pus thing that just shot out like a stream of pus the whole time.
Oh man, yeah, that was just like, ugh. And it looked uncomfortable too. Like it looked genuinely like unpleasant.
Yeah,
Like it looked like he was in pain.
He was definitely, because that prosthetic shit, he had to have his mouth open. Like definitely the whole time.
Yeah.
And like you see the drool, that was real drool. That was his drool because his mouth was open the whole time. Like all the drool you actually wasn't like, some misting spray drool that you would see in regular movies. It was his drool because he couldn't close his mouth during the filming.
Wow.
I mean, assume all his lines were ADR too.
Yeah.
They would have to be.
Talk with that shit.
Yeah. How could he even direct wearing all that crap on his face?
Yeah, I don't know.
Like I mean, probably one of the most uncomfortable things, because I've done acting and I've done stage work before, and during one play I had to wear spirit gum on my face so that I could wear a fake beard, and that shit was really, really uncomfortable. Like extreme, like it itched, and it had like this weird stiffness. It like poked you. It just was awful, and you could barely talk while like you were wearing it. You had to talk like that. It was really awful, and that was bad. I can't even imagine how much worse this must have been, though. Just to have because it looked like, I don't know if it was a mold or whatever it was, but it looked like it was attached literally to his mouth.
Yeah.
So that would explain why he was drooling the whole time. Yeah, because you wouldn't be able to retain your saliva if your mouth was like being forced open
by the downward. Open and downward. Yeah.
Yeah, they really outdid themselves with the makeup, I gotta say.
Stewie kills the biker and prepares to storm the stage and save Ricky. The Rasta eyeballs attempt to kill Stewie, but he kicks dust into their eyes, blinding them.
That's funny.
Yeah, I thought that was hilarious.
I love that. Yeah.
Toad tries to swallow Stewie, only for Julie and Ernie to throw an M80 into the Toad's tongue, which he swallows and promptly explodes. In response, Elijah infects Ricky with his own zygote, turning him into an equally grotesque 7-foot monster. As Ricky and Stewie battle to the death on stage, Elijah notices the EES executives trying to steal his equipment. Elijah stops them by soaking them with a zygote bazooka, mutating them and emerging them all into a giant fleshy shoe.
Yeah, which would explain why the shoe thing. Yeah.
What was it? Everything else?
Everything except shoes.
Everything except shoes, yeah.
Tied it in. See, there we go. That's how we do it in the biz.
Yeah.
So funny. Oh my god. Yeah, and they had some like nasty like Cronenberg level like
Yeah.
stuff going on. It
Yeah,
was
I couldn't
really-
honestly during that final fight, like final scenes. I had no idea what the fuck was going on at all.
Yeah.
There were just monsters, grotesqueness, pus and guts, and shit was just flying
Yeah.
everywhere. I was like,
was-
oh shit.
It was really sad too because Ricky was having to pummel Stewie, and it was like a tragic thing. And
Right.
yeah,
Even then, I
It's-
couldn't really. I honestly lost track of which one was which because they were just both big ass monsters. I was just-
yeah, they were just nasty. Yeah, giant monsters that were ripping each other up. Basically.
googly eyes too that were
Yeah.
pointing in all different directions.
Yeah, and you could see the veins and like all that stuff, and the muscles. And
Yeah.
yeah, this movie doesn't skimp on the details even for a second. You know. It's just-
Yeah. Right before Ricky is about to destroy Stewie, Cowboy reminds him that Stewie is his soulmate. A wave of compassion comes over him and he gives Stewie a hug. Enraged, Elijah unsuccessfully tries to fight Ricky, who bashes him in the head, breaking his spine. I didn't know that happened, but
I was not aware.
Yeah, I knew that he'd injured him. I didn't realize that he'd broken his spine. I guess that,
that's what Wikipedia says.
yeah, okay. Well,
Scuggs tries to get Ricky not to kill him by offering him the antidote for his mutation, telling him it was a time-delayed serum baked into a bunch of macaroons. Ricky comments that he skimped on the coconut and punches Scuggs, tossing him into the vat of Zygot 24. An empty FBI. I don't know why I read empty from, but
yeah, that's okay. No worries, it happens.
An FBI task force arrives to save Ricky after having learned of Stewie's article. Scuggs suddenly reemerges from the vat, having taken the form of Sky Daily. The FBI task force guns Scuggs down.
Oh yeah,
Yep.
yeah. This movie ends on a really weird final note. Like,
Yeah.
this is about when it started going way off the rails. Which, like, you know, the more I think about the direction it went in, the more it's like, okay, I guess it works. But like while I was watching it, I was like, what the fuck? Like, it turns into Brooke Shields. Like, I'm like, they haven't even met Brooke Shields yet, and like, wait, he just got cured, but then how is he deformed? I'm like, what? But anyway, now I'm spoiling the ending. So go on.
So yeah, cuts back at the interview. It's revealed that Ricky has returned to normal.
Yeah.
The whole silhouette gag was funny.
Yeah, because at the beginning of the movie, yeah, like she's like, oh, people are, you know, they shudder at your face now, so you assume, oh, he was mutated and, you know, will never be human again, you know. But then it turned out it was just some cactus that was just happened to be like a couple feet away.
Oh, we finally fixed your light.
Like, okay, they just spent the whole interview in the dark.
Yeah. It's revealed Ricky has returned to normal, along with most of the other freaks, except for Worm, who hates macaroons, which was a funny throwaway line at the time when they found him. He just screams in the background, I hate macaroons.
Yeah, so he didn't get changed back.
Yeah. They are then joined by Ortiz, who has finally caught the squirrel, and Stewie, still a giant super freak.
Yeah.
Sky comments on Elijah mutating to look like her, and Ricky realizes that Sky actually is Elijah. Scuggs lunges after Ricky with a machete, only to be gunned down by the now normal Julie. As she embraces Ricky, Sky rises again, this time to be gunned down by Ernie. Ricky and Julie kiss, and everyone waves farewell to the audience until the film ends on a frozen shot of Scuggs once again rising up to attack Ricky.
Yeah. So two people get murdered on live television. That's how the movie ends.
Yep. That is freaked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it was funny as hell.
my-
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Out of the 3 films on this episode, this was the funniest in my opinion.
Yeah. This was a wild one.
Yeah.
I
The
hope-
overall structure of it. Oh yeah.
I was just gonna say I was not expecting what I saw, but I loved it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
mean,
no,
like I said, I did see the Red Letter Media review of it a while back, so I was expecting most of it, and I do remember most of this, but it was good to finally see it fully.
Yeah.
Lived up to the hype.
Yeah. I definitely I would totally watch this again, like for
Oh,
sure.
yeah.
I mean, it is kind of a film that sort of invites rewatches because there are a lot of like inside jokes and things that make reference to things later and blah 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 blah. And yeah, I mean, like
Yeah.
even the soundtrack, there's a lot of like humor and timing put into it as well. Like, you know, it's a very layered comedy.
Yeah,
So,
even like you could watch the Idiot Box and then watch this because there's references like in the very beginning there was like a news bulletin of like before Brooke Shields is even on interviewing. It was like,
Yeah.
oh, breaking news, the flying man. Or it was like some type of flyman thing.
okay.
There's like a quick thing. Oh, flyman has been captured, blah blah blah. And that was like I guess a reoccurring skit on the Idiot Box about some weird fucking some equally weird fucking shit that he did in that show.
Yeah, that's funny. You know, it makes sense that this was so by the people that did that because and that like the people, you know, did like the animations for like MTV and stuff like that. Like I think that was the same people. But I mean that trademark like style of the shaky weird illustrations of the slime and the tentacles and stuff like that, like which and then like also like I feel like Mike Judge and other people sort of adopted some of those sort of visual styles with Beavis and Butthead and stuff like that, but like but I could see like how they drew that, like how that kind of drew from this. And also like those opening credits were nuts too.
Yeah.
And again, like I could see how that like was by the same people that did the animations for MTV. So but yeah, no, this was really cool. I really liked it a lot, you know. And I'm glad I saw it. I or saw it basically for the first time, if I had seen it before, which I'm not 100% sure that I have, but I'm pretty sure I have.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah. But I'm definitely not going to forget it this time.
Oh,
I'd
no.
probably give it like a 4 or 5 probably.
Yeah, I gave it a 4.
I gave it a 4 as well. Yeah, it was good one.
Yeah.
And let me go through some bits I want to mention that I laughed at.
Yeah.
It was in the beginning, the what's his face? Quaid. He has
Randy Quaid.
yeah, he has the Z24 and someone says, You're not supposed to have that. And he says, well, I'm not supposed to have these either. And he holds up hotel towels from the Ramada Inn.
Oh, that was great.
Yeah.
That gave me a good laugh. I was like, okay, there's a well-written bit.
Yeah, I was like, ooh, oh man.
Oh, and then when he was turning them into freaks, Ricky Coogan's the buddy asked, he said, well, can I have a bigger dick?
Yeah.
There was a Hollywood Squares scene, which the question,
yeah.
which is, this isn't like a funny bit, but it was the question was, who played Linda Blair in The Exorcist 2: The Heretic? So I was like,
Yeah.
oh no. References.
To movies we've watched.
Yep.
Yeah. Wasn't there also like some university professor, like they kept on like making reference to him like
Yeah.
again and
Yeah.
again, like
Yeah, he showed up a few times. Yeah, I forget what form.
yeah, but like his title would come up and then they'd point like an arrow toward him, and
Yep. Yeah, and he showed up at like the audience of the or something. He was in that finals, and then one of my favorite ones was also the last one I can think of. Was that they were It was when they were trying to get the good formula or something, or they were breaking in, and they were like, "Shh, we have to be quiet, or else we'll, alert Cogs, whatever his name is, the bad guy,
Scugs.
Scugs, and they made a fucking shit ton of noise, for breaking shit, knocking shit down, but they were like, okay, no, he didn't hear us, and then and then fucking Coogan accidentally knocks over a styrofoam cup, and it cuts to Quaid like he's watching TV. He turns around and he just says, "Styrofoam cup." In the fucking funniest way too.
Yeah, Randy Quaid was actually pretty funny.
Yeah, he went all out.
Yeah.
All right.
About
Anything
it for
else?
this one I got.
Yeah. Anything else either you want to say, or pretty much good? I think
That's pretty much it.
all right. Well, and having said that, that concludes this episode of Couple of Flicks. And so as for next week's episode, our theme is 2000 to 2010, right?
Yeah.
Like basically just any kind of B movie or whatever from that period of time.
Yep.
You want me to go with my choice real quick, or go with my choice first?
Yeah.
All right. I'm gonna go with Druids, which is from the early 2000s, and it used to be on the bottom 100, but it isn't anymore. But the reason I want to see this is because so the cover shows Christopher Lambert wearing the worst wig I've ever seen in my life. Like, you guys have to see it. He's wearing like this awful looking sort of it was like a top heavy wig, and I think I want to say it's about like the Crusaders or something. I'm not exactly sure what time period it takes place in, but I want to see it based on the fact that Christopher Lambert's wig on the poster looks so atrocious. Like, if they put that much effort into a wig on a poster, I want to see how much effort they put into the actual movie. So I'm choosing Druids.
Okay. I got my choice lined up.
All right.
I don't know why I choose it. I just and you guys may have also seen it. I may have even seen it. But it is the Flintstones in Viva Rock Vegas.
The Flintstones in Viva Rock Vegas. I think it might actually be on the bottom 100.
I think
Is
it
it?
is.
Shit. I mean, I can change it up too.
It's up to you.
Yeah.
But we do have that one to look forward to pretty soon, actually. So.
I mean, I will change it if it is on the bottom, but I can look for another one real quick if you have yours, Zach.
I had a few options. I still don't know which one I want to do.
Oh, okay.
All
right.
Let's just go with Evil Bong.
Evil Bong. Okay.
Another Full Moon franchise, because there are a lot of entries in it.
That's true. Yeah, there's also like Ginger Dead Man versus Evil Bong somewhere along the line as well. So
Yep.
Yeah. We'll see how that one goes. All right, excellent.
Yeah, my other choices were not really B movies, just weird shit.
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
Oh, like what? Like
one of them was Feed.
Okay.
Have you heard about that one?
Is that the internet cyber thriller? Or
I'm not sure about
Like-
that. It's like a cult or a group of people that abduct obese women and feed them to death.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah, that's the one I'm thinking of. Yeah,
Okay.
it's like an internet cyber thriller, and it's that would be an interesting one to watch. Well, okay, we could table that one. We could save it for next time. But yeah, that one's pretty messed up.
Okay.
See, now I'm wondering how many of the ones I want to choose are on this.
Yeah,
Oh.
there's a lot in that decade on the list.
Oh, really?
I wish I could cross check this one. I'll just go with yeah, college road trip. I don't know if it's gonna be on there.
I don't
I
think
think
it's
it
on
is.
there.
College road trip.
Yeah,
Let's give it a shot.
That was one of my other choices. I was
All right.
debating.
Okay, cool.
Martin
Yeah.
Lawrence and Ramon Simone. Raven Simone.
Ramon.
Ramon Simone. No, that's so Raven.
Ramon Saban. All right, cool. So we got druids, college road trip, and evil bong.
That's quite the lineup.
All right. Well, I'm looking forward to it. So yeah, until then, everybody, peace out and lots of love. So
Hell yeah, stay safe out there, guys. Like and subscribe.
Yeah.
yeah. Oh yeah, that too. All right, peace.
See ya.
See ya.